Hi, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to take the time today to talk a little bit about. Oh, I just went blurry. Will I come back into focus? Maybe not. This could be an interesting. Oh, there I am. Hi. So I wanted to take time today to talk a little bit about how I've gotten to where I am. I get this question quite a lot, actually, about how I came to Buddhism, how I got into teaching others how to change the way that they interact with themselves and others in the world. So I used to be a really horrible communicator. I was extremely passive aggressive, very reactionary, and very judgmental. I judged people all the time. I'd be walking down the street, I'd see women, I judge women. I'd see men, I judge men. I would judge everybody. I would even judge little kids. And I just remember when I lived in New York, like I would get annoyed at little kids for being loud, or I was just very judgmental. And I had a big problem with silence, and I felt the need to really close the space with language. I would talk a lot, but I would talk a lot about things that weren't helpful, and I gossiped a lot. I talked a lot about other people, and I had a lot of envy. I was rarely happy for other people, and I didn't know any of this at the time. I was also I think I mentioned this, but very passive aggressive, and I was great at like slamming cupboards and shutting doors and just getting up and walking away, or just shutting down and like not talking for I could go to bed very, very angry, and I could go for like the whole next day just like punishing others with my silence. And I didn't think there was another way to be, because I just believed that this was who I was. Even though it was what was happening, it was like inside I really wanted to be different. Like I felt like I really wanted to be open and connected. And I remember, looking out and seeing all these people in relationships, and like they seemed so loving and caring towards one another, and they were having fun. And I just constantly was like, gosh, I want that. Like I want to be open, and I want to be caring, and I want to be compassionate, and I want to be loving, and I want to feel connected, and I want to enjoy myself. And I remember having all those wants and just being angry and upset and annoyed and frustrated that was not what my reality was. And I felt like that was just how it would be, right? Those people are like that, and I am like this. And I had been with my first love, Mauricio, for 7.5 years. And he and we met in college, and we basically grew up together. And we had gotten to a place where we had decided, okay, we are going to separate and spend time apart, with the hope that the universe would bring us back together again. And he was from Costa Rica, and he was back in Costa Rica. And I was living in Spain at the time. I wrote a hiking guidebook out there and started a guiding company, which if you go to Madrid, you can still go to. It's called Hiking in the Community of Madrid. And if you're interested in that book, it's called Take a Hike, the best 50 routes in the community of Madrid. I can link it down below. And so we spent our time apart. The universe did bring us back together 4 years later. We met back in New York. And we met up at a bar, and we had like such a phenomenal night. We just talked about our relationship, what worked, what didn't work. So much of what didn't work was communication, and my jealousy and problems with trust, and things on his end, things on my end. And we ended that time together with this want to be back in each other's lives again. And so the idea was to figure out how to make that happen. And then 4 months later, he passed away. I was out with my friend for Fashion Week, and I got a call. It was an email from his sister-in-law saying to call. And so I called right away. And I'll never forget, I called and his brother answered and he said, Mao's dead, Mao died. And I didn't think that I heard him correctly. It didn't seem like real. He gave the phone to Mao's sister-in-law and she told me, and I just dropped. It was like my whole body gave out. I dropped onto the ground. And it was that moment that my life really changed for everything. I was completely empty. I was completely blank. I didn't know who I was, what this world was. I had so much anger, shock, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, questions and more questions, and exhaustion, and it was the worst moment of my life. And my thoughts were it was so chaotic for me in my mind. And I was really just wanting to feel better. I really wanted to figure out a way to feel better. And everyone was so loving and so caring, and nothing that they were doing was helping. And that was really when I realized that it was all on me. That if I wanted to feel better in this world, I was really going to have to figure out how to make that happen for myself. And that's when I decided to go on this search to figure this stuff out. And I was taking all these classes, and I was doing retreats and workshops and counseling and therapy and coaching and everything. And all of it was like amazing information, just phenomenal. But it was like little bits and chunks and pieces here and there. And I couldn't fit them all together, and I didn't feel like I was able to embody it. It was all up here, and I didn't feel any of it in here. And then a friend of mine she sent me an email about a writing and meditation workshop at the Shambhala Institute when I was living in New York, and I had never meditated before. I didn't know anything about Buddhism, but the description really resonated with me, and so I went. And that weekend completely changed my life. It's where I learned how to meditate, which was the first time that I was ever able to allow myself to just feel all of the feelings that I was feeling. And during that time, that was so what I needed. I mean, anytime that's so what I need. But it was the first time I was allowed to just be myself with myself. And anytime that judgment came in, I was able to bring more of a friendly attention toward myself. And so I really started to cultivate a new relationship with myself through meditation. And then that's when I learned about the elements of right speech in Buddhism. And that was like, aha. Because what I kept coming back to through all of what I was learning was that it was about communication. So if I wanted to change the way that I was engaging with the world, then I was going to have to change the way that I was engaged with myself and then others. And so when I learned the right elements of right speech in Buddhism, it was like, wow, done, check, sign me up. And that's when my lifestyle experiment began. And then the next day was when I started to say, okay, this is phenomenal in theory. Theory is beautiful. Tell the truth, don't exaggerate, use helpful language, don't gossip. That's phenomenal. But how does it actually work? And so that's what my lifestyle experiment became. And that's actually how I created this practice of intentional communication, the Kane intentional communication method, which is really how you implement that, like how you speak that way in a kind, helpful, and honest and necessary way in your day-to-day. So that's a little bit how I got to where I am. And then, and then it grew from there, because then I started writing more about what it was that I was experiencing by changing the way that I was interacting, and how it completely shifted my world. And I'll get into that maybe in another video. But, and then that's what led me to write How to Communicate Like a Buddhist. And talk to yourself like a Buddhist, and then how to meditate like a Buddhist, and then the daily Om courses of how to meditate like a Buddhist and turn off the enemy in your mind. And, now, through all of this, I've been able to teach more than 50,000 people. And then that then brought in the training program that I run, and I work with people directly through that. That's the only way that I work with people directly, is through the intentional communication training program. I can link the application below for that too. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of share with you how this all came about for me. It came about in a really unexpected way, through through something really tremendously painful. And I was reading something the other day about Buddhism, and that they often say that people who are suffering, right, or who are interested in learning more about their own suffering, find Buddhism. And I thought that was fascinating, because that is true. That was truly what it was for me. I was looking for somebody to come and take my suffering away, and the path out of that is really that I can do that. I can help myself relieve my own suffering and help others relieve their suffering. And so that's how this all came to be. So I hope this was of interest to you. You can give it a thumbs up if you thought so. And I'll see you in the next video.